Okay, so as I was saying, we now start our lesson on the queen or king with the shortest reign in English history, Lady Jane Grey, otherwise known as the 9 Days Queen. Please put in your note-taking books, starting a new section for Lady Jane. We begin the lesson, of course, as always, with our key terms. Just 4 of them, but they are all essential for understanding our story about Lady Jane Grey. The big words that you need to start the story are all contained in our first 3 key terms. The words are consort versus regnant. Take your time, listen to me, and put these down in your own words. You do not need to copy all this thing, though. A queen consort is a queen that becomes queen not because she is next in line, but because she marries the reigning king of the country. We've learned about many, many, many queen consorts so far. For example, every single wife of Henry VIII, all 6 of them, would be queen consorts. They only became queen by marrying the king. Jay, do you think a queen consort would have the same power as the king that they married?
Maybe no.
No, of course not. They're not actually the real monarch. They became monarch by marrying the king. And as we saw with Henry VIII, sometimes a queen consort's reign did not last very long. Killing 2 of his queens, annulling the marriage to 2 other ones. No, a queen consort only is called queen because of her relationship to the king. The second key term is king consort. And this is where we start to have something very interesting with the reign of Lady Jane Grey, because we had never had a king consort before. A king consort is the same as a queen consort. A king consort is one who becomes king not because they are next in line to be king, but because they marry the reigning queen. In English history, they had never successfully had a queen regnant, a queen who was in power by her own right because she was next in line, until Lady Jane. Now, the question, of course, was, if a queen is queen by her own right, because she's next in line, as Lady Jane would be for her 9 days, what is the role of her husband? Would Lady Jane be above her husband or below her husband? Would her husband gain all the powers of a king just by marrying the queen? These were questions that were going to be very important during the reign of Lady Jane, and then, of course, during the reign of Bloody Mary after her. During Mary's reign, it would become even more important because Mary would later get married to Philip II, King of Spain. And everybody's wondering, well, who's actually in charge of England? Queen Mary or the Spanish king? And these are very big questions also that we are going to be covering. So the other word that can come after king or queen is regnant. If you hear queen regnant or king regnant, that's the actual king or queen, the person who is king or queen because they are actually next in line to be in charge. Up until this point, every regnant in English history had been a king. Lady Jane Grey, for her 9 days, would be the first queen regnant in English history. But of course, she would start 3 queens in a row being queen regnant. Lady Jane for 9 days, then Mary, and then Elizabeth would all be queen regnant, be queen in their own right. A queen regnant becomes queen because they are next in line and have all of the powers of a nation's monarch, have all the powers of any king regnant. Jane, Mary, and Elizabeth are all examples of queen regnants. Any questions so far? Once again, as I'm saying, this is an extremely controversial topic. Who is actually in charge? Is it the queen regnant because she is the rightful queen of the country? Or is it the king consort because he's a man? Remember, the rules of England back then were boys before girls. Remember, young child Edward became king before his much older sisters, Mary and Elizabeth. And this is a question which all 3 of our queen regnants will deal with differently. Lady Jane, in her 9 days as queen, said that her young husband, Guildford Dudley, would never even be called king. Then Mary comes along, and she said her husband, Philip, King of Spain, would be called king. But in King Consort, Mary would still remain as the monarch, the one actually in control. Elizabeth, on the other hand, would deal with it completely differently. Elizabeth is like, I don't really know what the rules are. Things did not go well for my sister Mary when she got married to Philip, King of Spain. So Elizabeth is like, I'm going to deal with this problem by never getting married at all. That way, nobody's going to have this argument with me if I don't get married ever. Judy gives a thumbs up to this choice, right? The problem, of course, Judy, is that by Elizabeth never getting married, she ended the Tudor dynasty because, of course, she had no children. So Elizabeth stayed in control, but dynasty over. Questions?